Dear colleagues, welcome back to this info day on Horizon Europe work program and the widening and era part of the work program more specifically. This morning we dedicated our info day to the more traditional era actions, the teaming, the twinning, era chairs and cost actions. And this afternoon we're going to present to you the newer actions, the more innovative measures that we have introduced both in the framework program and now in the work program. So you'll be hearing this afternoon about the Excellence Hubs, the ERA Fellowships, the Excellence Initiative, the NCP Network, and what we call the service package, which includes the matchmaking and the pre-proposal checks, for example. And finally, at the end of the afternoon, you'll be hearing about the famous hop-on. So I would just like to remind you that you are most welcome to send us your questions on Slido, and it's up there on the screen now. You scan it, and then you're good to go. And we certainly, as you know, look forward to your questions and comments because they're very valuable to us, not only to interact with you, but also to understand what are your questions, what are your concerns, and what we need to clarify to you. Because you are, of course, our clients, you are the users of the program, and we are very concerned that things are as clear as possible. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce our next speaker, Stefan Vayas. Many, if not all of you, know him. He is head of sector in Unit A4 of DG Research and Innovation, and we're obviously very happy to have him here. And Stefan will speak now about the Excellence Hubs. Stefan, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Manuel, for the kind words. My presentation will be about one of the new schemes, the Excellence Hubs, and I will try to demystify this a bit because there were already quite a few questions coming up on this particular scheme. So let me first perhaps recap a bit the rationale, the political framework for this call, for this particular topic. So as Anna Panagopoulou mentioned already in the morning, we still have to struggle with the innovation divide in Europe that persists and risk even to broaden as a result of the pandemic crisis. And although there was some progress made, there are still many countries and regions that lag behind in terms of their R&I investments and R&I performance. One of the key factors for successful research and innovation in many member states and other countries in the world is that there are strong linkages between the science and the business. And this is really fostering competitive success. We believe that in widening country, there's also still something to catch up, and especially in many of these countries, the world of academia and business are completely apart and separated, and that is one of the reasons why there is a lack of innovation culture in these countries. And our legislators, by the way, they have explicitly requested for initiatives for excellence in the widening component of Horizon Europe. And after some discussion also with a number of stakeholders, we have decided that we would implement two complementary actions, one for excellence innovation and the other for higher education that my colleague Stijn Delors will present at a later stage in the afternoon. One quite proven vehicle to, let's say, to promote and to support innovation in regions are the place-based innovation ecosystems. And we would like to use them as drivers for development, diffusion and uptake of R&I results in these catching up countries and regions. There is a framework for this collaboration between academia, business, regional government, but also societal actors that is called the Quadruple Helix. I will come back to that a bit later, also to demystify it a bit, because for some of you it might appear a bit academic. But last but not least, what we want to do is also to to provide a European added value of cross-border collaboration of ecosystems alongside value-adding chain or EU policy priorities and or regional smart specialization. It's here very important to highlight again the European added value, because otherwise it would not make no sense to fund these activities by the framework program by Horizon Europe, because there are also some initiatives within the member states and in the regions. I come to the next slide. So just to recap a bit the policy objectives that are also in line with our ERA communication and the overall overarching policy objectives for widening. It's, as I said, the innovation divide. We need to mobilize national investment in R&I and widening capacity. So we consider this scheme as a kind of a seed funding that should leverage a multiple of the project funding as investment at a later stage. We want to have innovation excellence in this ecosystem, science business links, but also we want to promote European cooperation with a view beyond Europe, if it is possible, to internationalize a regional ecosystem. We want to especially also look a bit into stakeholders that were not so much perhaps participating in the framework programs before as they should have done it. And these are the regional and societal actors. And another dimension that is very important is here the cultural dimension, to create an innovation and entrepreneurial culture in these catching up countries and regions. There should also be synergies with other program parts, not only with our structural funds, the ERDF, but also with European innovation ecosystems and the European Institute for Innovation and Technology, also known as the EIT. What are the key features of these place-based innovation ecosystems? It's always a bit difficult to give a definition that is generally valid, but I made a bit background research, and the best suitable I would like to cite as following. It's in our interconnected companies, research institutions, governmental bodies, societal actors that are mutually reinforcing each other in a territorial context and together raise the level of innovation excellence in their regional fabric. Here I would like to underline that the connotation of place-based is important, although we know nowadays, especially in the crisis, we can do a lot of wonderful things together around the globe without seeing each other, without using these conference tools like today. But as a matter of fact, it is obvious that if you want to have a close collaboration between companies and research institutions and also the regional economy, the proximity still counts. So you can do spontaneous arrangements, you can have short-term ad hoc collaborations, and typically ecosystems are developing in a nucleus of a certain territorial context. And there are a couple of examples for that. This concept of the quadruple helix has been described in many scientific articles on knowledge economy and innovation, and they have inspired a number of funding initiatives in Europe and US. So if you want to read a bit more, there are two authors that might be highlighted, is Mr. Leidesdorf from Amsterdam University and Mr. Karayanis, an American economist, and they have written a lot of conceptual research paper on this. But there are many funding programs that are following a bit in the footsteps of this work. We also see the necessity to include more societal actors. As you know, Horizon Europe is very strongly encouraging citizen science. And in this context, we also would like to include the societal actor as the fourth element of the quadruple helix. You know that there was formerly a concept of triple helix that was only including universities, business, and the local government. The fourth component is particular looking into culture and media-based public and civil society. I will come to the more practical side a bit later on. As I said, the geographic proximity supports also the sustainability of the partnerships, but we see ecosystem as dynamic networks, which is a bit different from the formerly traditionally known industry clusters. As you know, there were also many programs that were funding clusters. We have the cluster observatory that is still existing, but sometimes the traditional clusters are a bit too static, too much inward looking, and therefore we prefer having a bit dynamic ecosystem. That means also that within an ecosystem you can have also competitors. So it's a mixture of cooperation and competition that makes them dynamic and alive. And here our ambition is that we want to upscale these regional ecosystems to European international scale. Looking a bit more into the practice of the proposal writing, as you have seen in the work program, we have a minimum requirement that there should be 2 place-based innovation ecosystems from 2 different countries, and all components of the Quadruple Helix should be represented. We can recommend, if it is possible, to use umbrella organizations that might replace individual partners. These could, for instance, be cluster organizations, other kind of associations. If there are very large ecosystems, there can be have tens of partners or even more. We would like to advise you not making them all signing up to the grant agreement and because then you have so many nitty-gritty partners and the administration work will be an overkill. So there are provisions in the work program that would allow that partners can be represented with mandate or endorsement letters. But nevertheless, there should be in each of the ecosystems 2 core partners to be represented, 1 research institution, 1 established commercial company. It's important that the commercial company, the one at least, needs to be a kind of an anchor company that is really existing in the real economy. So we do not want to base this solely on startups and consultants. Therefore, there are some provisions that the company should have at least a 3-year existence and also a commercial revenue apart from the public funding that can be demonstrated in a balance sheet and where some turnover figures are provided and so on. Also, a recommendation is that the consortium should be kept at a manageable size. So ideally not much overshooting the 20 partners, because otherwise you will have too much coordination effort and that might really strangle the project. In contrary to the other widening actions, here we have on purpose renounced on having advanced partners. So here everything is at equal footing. We expect that the center of gravity of the participants are from widening countries. So roughly, let's say, take the rule of roughly plus minus 70% in financial terms should be invested here in the widening countries, but also entities, either individual entities or full-fledged ecosystem from non-widening countries may participate, and that might even be very beneficial in some cases also to support the mutual learning. Now, what about the thematic scope of the consortium? Here you have quite some freedom. So I would say it is a bit a semi-bottom-up approach. Semi-bottom-up approach means you are not completely free, like in the cost actions, but you need to choose a thematic scope based on 2 principles. Either a common denominator of the related regional smart specialization strategies. For instance, there's let's say life science, one of the core areas in the smart specialization strategies. You bring together 2, 3, or 4 of ecosystems that are working in this domain. But you can also choose the way of using European policy priorities. Here I would especially recommend to look into the Green Deal and the digital transformation that could give the narrative and the rationale for a thematic scope of the project. Next. Coming now, also staying a bit at the practical level, how should such a project look like? In the work program, there are 5 components are mentioned that should be more or less covered, and they should be put together in a coherent and balanced package of actions. And this might already pre-shape the proposal, so could be perhaps a good idea that these components would be then represented by a dedicated work package. The first one is a cross-border joint R&I strategy aligned with strategic priorities. So here what we really need to have a detailed strategy and an agenda based on a sound analysis of the demand and the opportunity. So you have to look to do a bit background research in the domain that you choose, and where are the challenges, what can the partners of the consortium contribute to advance on this in this strategy, on this agenda. And again, here the scope should be defined by common smart specialization, topics or European policy priorities. In some cases, it might even be the same and overlap, and then maybe even the better. The second part is a joint R&I project similar to twinning. You remember maybe the talk about twinning, a joint R&I project that should consolidate the academia and business linkages in the scope of the strategy. It should be clearly aligned to the strategy, and there must be an active involvement of business partners envisaging marketable solution. Here, of course, you have the possibility also to be a bit more focused. So you do not need to cover everything that is in your strategy. You are selective, and you identify a topic for research project within that scope, and where you work more closely together. The third component is an action and investment plan for the implementation of the strategy mentioned under 1. Here, what we would need to have is a very concrete implementation and finance plan, and also the cookbook or the way, the algorithm, how you would exceed other funding sources, notably here the European Regional Development Fund, but also others. It could be national funds, venture capital, private investment, and that this needs to be put together also for the sake of the sustainability of this partnership. A fourth element is the conceptual design and the pre-planning for pilots and demonstrators, in case if it is applicable, if you really see a value or an added value of that. But here, what can be funded is, for instance, the specification or the design studies for new R&I infrastructure, but also to plan pilot projects, feasibility and proof of concept studies. The fifth element is what I have summarized here under accompanying measures. These measures are a bunch of actions that are particularly looking into creating innovation culture, but also to develop the human resources in these regions and within the consortium. That means to raise the visibility, citizen engagement, entrepreneurship, staff exchange, mutual learning, but also technology transfer can be funded, and so on. So that is also a bit similar to twinning in a way, but this more in the innovation context. Okay, the expected impact. So again, what we want to see afterwards, we see clearly R&I results translated in the economy, one of the key priorities of the new European research area. A contribution to the structural changes for the competitive R&I system in the widening countries, an improved environment for business research and innovation, investment and deployment of new technology. We want to have regionally developed innovation ecosystem, but they should be connected across Europe and might be also drivers of new European strategic value-adding chains. There are some good examples already existing in Europe, so you need to look a bit into these examples. We also want to have better regional actors and the place-based innovation cultures. Last but not least, here the call data will be opening on 3rd of November. Closing date is the 15th March. We will invest 50 million in this very first call, and the project size is expected to be 3 to 5 million euro. Condition, as you know, the coordinator must be located in the widening countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stefan. I think this very comprehensive presentation has helped explain what the excellence hubs are, what this idea is, and to demystify it a little bit. But of course, we will only know for sure when we look at the questions coming in in Slido. So perhaps we could have a look at those. I don't see anything yet. There they are. Stefan, perhaps you could stop sharing your screen so that we can see the questions. Thanks.
Okay, I can see it now.
Okay. So we have here a first question that looks quite practical. 2 ecosystems from 2 widening countries coordinate. What about additional partners? Do they have to be ecosystems as well, or are individual organizations eligible?
Here the answer is a clear yes. As long as the minimum condition of 2 ecosystems is fulfilled, also individual organizations need to be or can be joining if they have a very clear role. This can be, for instance, the knowledge transfer, the learning, or specific expertise that is needed. This is possible, yes, but it needs to be clearly explained, and the added value of the individual partners needs to be justified.
Okay, I think that's a very direct and clear reply. The next question we have here is, could you provide more clarity on geographical proximity? Is there an expectation that widening countries close to each other geographically will collaborate? What is the exact meaning of cross-border?
Yeah, this is indeed a very good question, and on purpose, we have left here quite some flexibility. So the geographic proximity framework needs to be described in the proposal, but on purpose, we have not prescribed, let's say, a particular territorial unit like the NUTS level. For instance, it would be possible that you have, I was asked a question some time ago in a presentation, if there would be a possible ecosystem could be established, let's say, over the Gulf of Helsinki, where you have a company from Helsinki collaborating with the University of Tallinn. And this is, of course, possible, but here the geographic proximity should be described. There is no obligation that cross-border is interpreted that you are immediately working together across the next border. So, for instance, you could have an ecosystem in let's say, in Bulgaria that is collaborating with one in Lithuania and maybe another one in Finland. So this is possible. But if you have, for instance, already established border crossing collaboration in this EU-regio context, for instance, or Interreg, where you often have border regions where you have clusters or ecosystem that is already for a long time working across the border, this can then be considered to be in, let's say, a single ecosystem.
I see. So no. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I think I'm finished with that answer. Yeah.
No, thank you. I mean, it's. I understand it's a fairly complicated issue to address, in the sense that there's not a clean-cut criterion in a sense. But I think your answer made it much clearer. We have here now a question from someone who has clearly read the work program. Excellence hubs have a smaller budget in comparison to teaming. However, the expected impact seemed to be more ambitious. Would you say that this is true? What about the teaming center operating as a non-profit company? Is it eligible in excellence hubs? If yes, in which role? Research actor?
Okay, thank you. Also, I think a very valid question. The reason why the budget here is lower than for teaming is here that we have more the philosophy that an excellence hub should receive a seed funding, and the work that is done in this project is a bit more at the conceptual level rather than in the teaming, where you do more material building of a new or modernization of an existing center. We would expect that with this conceptual seed funding, we would leverage a multiple of investment at a later stage. If we have, for instance, a teaming center, it could be a very good continuation of a teaming project. If the teaming center would become the core of let's say, an ecosystem under the Excellence Hub, I think this is possible and even welcome. But of course, then you would need to mobilize partners around the teaming center that are covering the other parts. I would imagine that the teaming center here would step into the role of the research part, but you would need to mobilize also partners from the business, the regional, local government, and societal actors.
No, that's a very interesting perspective, I would say. Will organizations who sign a letter of endorsement and not a grant agreement be eligible for funding?
The organizations that are not signing up to the contract can receive they are not full partners, logically, but there are other ways to reimburse cost to them. That could be, for instance, expert contract, it could be service contract, could be participation in meeting, travel costs, and so on. Details for this will be provided in the forthcoming FAQ. I think here it is very important, once you set up the consortium, you really need to trade off between the administrative effort to be taken on board, especially for SMEs. I mean, SMEs are often complaining about the bureaucracy and administration. If you have an SME in such an ecosystem that is, let's say, having a smaller contribution by providing expertise, you may think of just involving them in a different way by a letter of endorsement and reimbursing costs directly, rather than making this company part of the consortium, because they will be overthrown with the administration. You may also think about solutions that you could base on linked third parties that can also be helpful in many cases.
No, very, very interesting. Thank you, Stefan. I think we still have quite a number of questions, but our time is up. I would just propose to you one final question in order not to leave our viewers very frustrated. We have here a question linked to the investment plan. Is the investment plan needed for the future or for the duration of the action? In other words, matching funds need to be sought for the action or for the future? What about the mobilization of ESIF funds within the investment plan? Will that be evaluated?
For the evaluation, the ESIF funds are, of course, naturally one of the main candidates to be mobilized. Now we are speaking more about the ERDF, European Regional Development Funds. At the proposal stage, you do not need to have commitments letter, unlike teaming. You just need to sketch out what is your envisaged way forward. You should demonstrate, for instance, that you have looked at least a bit into the operational program and to the smart specialization strategy. We will not, let's say, put it as a conditionality that all the funds that you have in the investment plan will already be mobilized during the lifetime of 4 years. This is also not very realistic. What we want here is a long-term investment plan that should also pinpoint the sustainability of this partnership. So it should go beyond the duration of the project. Ideally, I would say that there already should be a cash flow coming already during the project lifetime, but you are not expected to implement the full investment plan within these 4 years.
Very clear. Thank you very much, Stefan. Thank you for the questions, for answering the questions and for your presentation. And now, if you allow me, I'll pass the moderation on to you and let you continue with the moderation for the afternoon and introduce the next speaker. Thank you very much, colleagues.
Okay, thank you very much, Manuel. So I would like to pass the floor then to João Albuquerque, whom you know already quite well, who with the next presentation. Please, João, the floor is yours.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Now it's good, João.
Okay. It was just an accidental mute. Okay. Many thanks, Stefan. It is my pleasure now to introduce the smallest and probably the action that is aimed at individual research. It's we could say a continuation of the existing widening fellowships. And next slide, please. This is action that is, as I was saying, is aimed at individual researchers, and these researchers have to take cross-border mobility. And the single question requirement on this call is going to have a beneficiary located in the widening country. The action builds strictly on the Marie Curie postdoctoral fellowships, at least for the time being. And the target group are the host organizations that will be located in widening countries. Regarding the call and the specificities of the call, it's a training mobility action. The call deadline, as you can expect, is strictly aligned with the Marie Curie individual fellowships for this year. The indicative budget is of 80 million, and with this money we expect to fund around 50 additional fellowships for institutions in the widening countries. Next slide, please. Who can apply? So individuals together with the host organization in the widening country, that's those that can submit an application. How this application can be submitted. There is no separated call application. If you want to submit a proposal to this call, you need to submit a proposal to the Marie Skłodowska actions, and specifically for the postdoctoral fellowships 2021 European fellowships. So this needs to be very clear to all, no independent submission. In the case you submit, and if you don't opt out, your application will be automatically submitted to this call. So application will be certainly the same, and if your proposal fails to reach an adequate place in the ranking list of the Marie Curie call to be funded, then it will be checked if your proposal falls on the funding range of the existing budget for the widening fellowships, and that if it's the case, your proposal will be funded as a normal Marie Curie in everything but name, but under the ERA fellowships. If you don't wish to benefit, you have the possibility to opt out. If you really want to have the Marie Curie label, then you have the possibility to opt out. Next slide, please. How it's going to be implemented? Again, as you can imagine, it's very clear that what applies to Marie Curie postdoctoral fellowships applies here. Proposals have to fulfill all the admissibility and eligibility conditions for the call, and they will be implemented using the award criteria, scoring and results of the proposals we have obtained under the normal evaluation of Marie Curie, including all the comments and the scores in the existing evaluation report. Eligible costs will be as for Marie Curie. So you can see that this is a very simple scheme. does not mean that it's not meaningful. It does not mean that it does not provide individuals with additional opportunities. It's also interesting for institutions because they can bring very quality and promising researchers to their location and to benefit also from the expertise from these people. Thanks.
Thank you very much, João, for this very clear presentation on an important element of the brain circulation. Although this is already a quite established scheme, we really count on that to mobilize talents to support brain circulation. So I'm just wondering if there are some questions. Yannis, maybe you have spotted some in the Slido that we could see on the screen. All right. Here, one of the applicants, one of the colleagues asked, where can I find the information on opting out from ERA fellowships? Is it in the work program Wide ERA or in the work program on MSCA? Joe, maybe you can help with that question.
Yes, so this information will be on the template of the Marie Curie call. So when you are filling in your information, the data for the Marie Curie call, you have a specific box to tick if you don't want to be part of the Widening fellowships.
I think this is very clear. Thank you very much, João, because it's important and you can see it more or less in a kind of automatic procedure. The next question relates to the Seal of Excellence. Can it also be applied for the ERA fellowships?
Yes, so the Seal of Excellence is not directly applicable to the Widening fellowships because it's already applicable to the Marie Curie actions. So you benefit from the Seal of Excellence under the Marie Curie actions. And so if a member state or an organization wishes to fund a proposal by using their own budget, this is still possible. So in the end, you have like 3 different ways of funding your proposal. The first being the original application to the Marie Curie call, the second being the Widening fellowships, and the third being the Seal of Excellence awarded under Marie Curie. So all these 3 elements can fund a proposal submitted under Marie Curie.
Okay, thank you very much. So I see no further questions coming from Slido. Okay, what about ERA talents? How it is different? Is there? How would you describe differences between this one and the ERA talents that is also advertised in our work program?
Yes. This is ERA talents. It's a possible measure that will be implemented, and it's not yet defined how and when. The present situation is that we are waiting for the results of ongoing studies on brain circulation to discuss with the member state the possible modalities of implementation. So the outcome of these studies, the first preliminary results are expected in the fall of 21. So we will not have an implementation mode before I would say the end of the year. So for the time being, there is no such scheme and there is no definition of, but of course, that one thing that is sure, it will not be exactly the same. If it exists, it will have a different implementation model.
Okay, thank you very much. So any more questions? I don't see any more. So Okay, thanks a lot, João.
A simple scheme, and I think people understand it well. Thanks.
Okay, great. So I have the pleasure now to announce my colleague Stijn de Lore, who will present the approach for how to deal with the Higher Education Institute, the Excellence Initiative for Higher Education. So please, Stijn, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Stefan. So can I have the slides, please? So I'm happy to be here to explain one action dedicated to higher education institutions. I'm working in Unit A3 of DGRTD, developing policy in support of R&I actors and research careers. And for this action, we indeed focus on research innovation actors. It is a preparatory action. It's part of what will become the European Excellence Initiative, supporting institutional changes of higher education institutions and their surrounding ecosystem. Next slide, please. We intend to do this institutional change or support the institutional change of universities through cooperation, with the principle lifting all boats, sharing to bring all partners to a higher level. And the bulk of the funding of this action will have to go to partners in widening countries. This action is one of the tools we have that is preceding a bit the development of a policy, a European strategy for universities, which will become likely a Commission communication adopted in January 2022. And we are co-creating with member states, with stakeholders, and European university alliances a vision on the future of universities in Europe through a holistic approach, taking into account education, research, innovation, service to society. We are identifying the priority areas for institutional change. There has been already quite some exercises on this, and through this action, we have a tool in our hands to support these changes. The policy action is amplifying, the policy objective is amplifying reform of research innovation ecosystems through cross-border cooperation, and higher education institutions are core in these. We are targeting new or existing networks, and we want them to integrate further. Networks of higher education institutions from both widening and non-widening countries to develop common research innovation strategies, action plans, roadmaps, sharing practices and tools on specific areas of institutional change. And these areas are listed here, but these are examples. I'll come back to it in a couple of minutes. These are examples we developed based on previous consultations. So creating critical mass together, developing a common agenda, sharing capacities, infrastructure, resources, strengthening research careers, including regarding gender balance, regarding balanced talent circulation, and inducing reform in academic career assessment. Transition to knowledge and digitally driven universities, including open science practices, mainstreaming of these, the reinforcing cooperation with other actors, in particular academia business interactions, and creating more proximity to and engaging citizens. Next slide, please. So I will come back to these examples of the areas. Now, with This call is targeting higher education institutions. It may include any type of university, research organization, academies of science, polytechnic universities, universities of applied science, specialized laboratories, public laboratories, because we are aware of the fact that the diversity in higher education sector is huge. Higher education partners or partners of universities and other entities in the surrounding ecosystem, such as businesses, societal actors, or other non-academic entities, are encouraged to be involved as partner or associated organizations. We need at least a consortium of at least 2 higher education institutions from 1 or more widening countries, and at least 2 international leading higher education institutions from 2 different other member states or associated countries. We foresee a budget per project of between 1.5 and 2 million euro. And the total budget will be 30. So we envisage to fund about 15 projects. Deadline is the 4th of November already this year. What we will offer is a comprehensive set of activities, or what the project could do: short-term staff exchanges, expert visits, short-term virtual trainings or on-site trainings, the organization of joint summer school type of activities, workshops, conferences, dissemination and outreach activities, funds for research management and administration to prepare roadmaps, for instance, capacity building for research management, technology transfer offices, open science practices, and if needed, also explorative research projects, which have to be led by widening partners, for instance, to develop new research trends or joint research trends following the common research innovation agenda being developed. Next slide, please. So let me now come back to these potential areas of institutional change. I refer to this web link. It is also indicated in the work program text. I believe it is footnote 13 on page 33. So check this, because it contains a lot of information on possible activities. It is not to be prescriptive, because what the consortia will be doing in terms of institutional transformation is entirely up to the consortia, up to the networks. So your choice to choose which areas to work on, to define the weight attached to each area, adding areas that are not in the current list because discussion evolve, choosing the most appropriate deployment models, taking the necessary action. That's entirely your choice. The purpose of the document is to provide some guidance. Okay, so it's not I emphasize this. It is not meant to be prescriptive, or you don't need to follow all this. But we hope that, because of earlier consultations with a lot of stakeholder organizations, we think that these are the areas that are of importance in institutional transformation. For all areas where appropriate, we expect some legal, regulatory, and financial advice or recommendations regarding barriers hampering the cooperation. This is policy feedback that will help the Commission and the Member States to improve the situation. Next slide, please. So I will now go through each of the possible activities, okay, to give you a bit of more explanation. You find more details of these in the web link with the information document I provided earlier. So the first suggestion is creating more critical mass to solve societal challenges by sharing research innovation strategy, by developing a common agenda, taking the stuff where you are strong in together. Your common strengths, exploit these by working more together, by stimulating researchers to find solutions together in your consortium. What we expect is not to actually do the research, but to develop the strategy. to develop roadmaps and to initiate initial action plans, the implementation of action plans. You can think, of course, about on the Green Deal, on artificial intelligence, health-related issues, beating the pandemic, and so on. We want the project to scale excellence, so to show piloting actions, supporting the creation of joint critical mass in shared societal challenges. Next slide, please. This is linked to the previous example of an activity is about sharing infrastructures, sharing resources. You can envisage that in one side of a consortium of 6 or 7 or 10, on one side you build a new equipment or research infrastructure. You join the forces to do that, and you share that infrastructure with the others. So this is an idea that would be more cost efficient. And you go there where money is available, where funding is available for these type of capacities, or you use the strong entities' resources on certain aspects of knowledge transfer, and you share this with the other entities. So the idea is that you try to develop a cooperation strategy in sharing this capacity and to pilot some solutions to overcome barriers. Next activity, please. Next slide, sorry. So this is about strengthening research careers. It's an important area for the Commission. I refer to the recent Council conclusions on research careers. So the universities are a core actor in this, in strengthening research careers, in the career development, in the flow through of talents to other sectors and back. So this is, you could think of deploying, or for instance, the HR strategy for researchers, HRS4R, on going a step further in reforming the career assessment to take into account other types of indicators, not only linked to impact factors of publications, but also thinking about diversity, about outreach to society, knowledge transfer, teaching, and so on. Next slide, please. Another activity that is explained in this information document is about how to reinforce or deploying strategies to reinforce cooperation with other actors in the surrounding ecosystem. So we focus in the example on academia business, but of course it goes in all types of innovation actors, including cultural and social innovation. The examples given are to develop an innovation strategy together as a network with the other actors, to strengthen the innovation capacity, the sharing of it, the mainstreaming of entrepreneurial mindset of the researchers, and especially early career researchers involved, including training modules in the doctoral schools, for instance, and sharing this, inducing an upscaling of the cooperation with other actors, and the development of what you could call an innovation pipeline or innovation circle, whatever. So the involvement of the other actors in the research business from the onset, and to create a truly knowledge circulation ecosystem. Next slide, please. So this is an action that is obviously linked to the digital transition of our society, and universities certainly are core amplifiers to do it. You have been doing it for the past more than a year now during the pandemic. So here we give examples on actions for a potential network, right? Like action plans for mainstreaming open science practices, including the related infrastructures and resources like open science ambassadors, but also tools to on research data management, including the providing young researchers with the necessary skills and competences. Next slide. Finally, an example of crucial activities, of course, due to outreach to citizens, to society, creating more proximity and engaging citizens in the science. For this, you could think of piloting activities to better uptake research results of any kind, both into society as being used in education purposes. Okay, I invite you to have a look at the guidance document before you start writing your proposals. And next slide, please. Now, what we expect from these consortia is to create an integrated and longer-term cooperation between the involved higher education institutions and with the partners in their surrounding ecosystem. This is creating new networks and creating stronger networks there to last. And a very important outcome that we anticipate is to raise the excellence profile of all the higher education institutions in there, but especially those from the widening country, including the staff from the institutions in widening countries. We expect initial tangible progress in institutional change through the areas that the networks choose themselves, including through pilots and case studies on the areas mentioned. And as well contribute to a portfolio of successful models for transformation. And this links back to the European strategy for universities that we are developing. The idea being to get to more inclusive, more excellent, more open, more connected and more globally competitive institutions in Europe. That's the objective of the European strategy, or will likely be the objective of the European strategy for universities. Also, one of the expected outcomes is that you can make use of these networks to prepare to embark on a future European Universities Initiative call. So, as you know, the European Universities Initiative has been launched in 2019 by Erasmus. And in the meantime, 41 alliances are working up and running pilot projects, and they are receiving complementary support from Horizon 2020. Now, entities who receive this complementary support are excluded from support in this topic. There are entities who did not receive, or alliances who did not receive Horizon 2020 support, they are eligible for funding. Also, the networks who failed in getting the Erasmus funding can apply here for this as a preparation for future calls under Erasmus and Horizon Europe. That brings me to my next and final slide. The synergies with the European education area. So currently, member states, the pilot alliances and stakeholder organizations are, together with the Commission, co-creating the further rollout of the European Universities Initiative. This preparatory action is part of what will become the European Excellence Initiative, contributing to integrated networks of higher education institutions after this work program. So we will, part of the co-creation process is finding the optimal way to align the Horizon Europe and Erasmus funding in support of networks of higher education institutions such as the alliances. Key features for the Horizon Europe part would be the inclusive excellence in education, research, innovation, and service to society, as well as raising global competitiveness of higher education institutions. So, but that's for later. This is giving a flavor of what is still to come in this area. Next slide, and that's. Thank you, and Back to you, Stefan.
Thank you very much, Stijn, for this very comprehensive presentation. We still have a few minutes left for a couple of questions. We see the Slido. The first one is about the European Excellence Initiatives for Higher Education. How many calls are foreseen in Horizon Europe? Is this first one a pilot action?
It is not strictly speaking a pilot action. It is a preparatory action. We will get information from it to develop further the European Excellence Initiative. Possibly this will be the only call, but in any case, a similar action will come up in the next work program to support higher education institutions in their institutional change efforts.
Okay, thank you. And there's another question, I think is quite interesting one. Should research institutions also participate as supporting higher education institutes in achieving excellence, not as main beneficiary, but as another participant? How do you see that?
Yes, indeed. So while the action focuses in the first place on higher education institutions and the integrated networking of this, and the capacity building of a network, it looks also at the surrounding ecosystems. And usually in an ecosystem, take a city where there is a university and a research institute who are already closely collaborating. So of course, this is crucial. And I encourage universities and to link up with research institutions in that sense, as associated partners.
Okay, thanks. So the next question is if organizations, can organization pilot action participate without funding? What about organizations that cooperated in Erasmus Plus projects? Can third countries, not associated, in brackets, not associated countries, be included in partnerships?
On the first part of the questions, so indeed, organizations who participate in the European University Alliance's pilots can participate. They can, but they are not entitled to receive funding. So if the participants in the current alliance projects are seeking to enlarge their network or to look for other partners, yes, please go ahead. This is good. Organizations that cooperated in Erasmus Plus, well, I think I replied to that question as well. We have 41 alliances supported by Erasmus, and 39 of these receive also funding from Horizon 2020. These 39 are excluded from receiving funding, but they can participate. Okay, and third countries to be included. Yes, one of the ideas is to reach to a level or an improved level of global competitiveness. This is about of the involved institutions, and this is about retaining and attracting talents, including from other countries, to cooperate more with to solve global challenges. We need international cooperation for that. So adding third countries participants as associated partner would be could be encouraged.
Okay, very clear. So another participant wants to know how this call will be aligned with the European University Initiative call as a separate one.
It is not aligned in the sense of it is not a complementary support for the European Universities Initiative. It is rather looking for new networks or existing networks that have not yet been supported by the European Universities Initiative, neither by Erasmus or by Horizon 2020. So, but it is seeking to strengthen capacity of new networks, to enlarge the scope of what the European University Pilot Alliances are doing so far. In parallel, as of 2022, Erasmus will be launching a call for bridging in support of the current alliances. And there may be already in 2022 some new alliances launched, but this will be a very limited number, 2 to 6 or so. Later on in 2024, more newcomers can be funded through Erasmus, and at that point we will be ready to get a better alignment and to be more in phase with Erasmus. So this is not the case in this point. So with this goal, we build capacity for networks. With really the aim to induce or support, empower universities to do institutional changes, okay, in the research innovation dimension. And it can help new networks to get so close in the cooperation that they are totally ready for the future European Universities Initiative call for new alliances.
Mm. Yeah, I think especially in this regard, we try here to mobilize, to tap the potential that we have in the widening countries that were not yet so much covered by the European University initiatives. And I think this is an extremely important complementary core activity that we have projected into the context of widening. So
indeed. So far, about 27% of the members in the European Universities Initiative are coming from widening countries, but there is a higher potential. And with this call, we hope to indeed tap into that.
Yeah, so there's really a big opportunity. And so then I would like to thank you very much, Stijn, for this comprehensive talk. I think there were not so many questions because you simply anticipated them all with all your very detailed guidance. And for potential applicants, please have also look into this guidance document that you can download from the portal, where you have a very clear indication of all the potential possible actions that you can take, that's your choice then to select them. Now I would like to lead over to the next speaker. As you have already seen in the morning, we have a good tradition that we invite special guests from our good partner organizations. And in the afternoon, this will be Katarzyna Walczyk, who comes from the Polish NCP organization and with whom we worked already closely together for a long time in the context of the NCP WideNet. And Katarzyna will now present to you some ideas how the future NCPs will work and what are the particular services that they will carry out also on behalf of the Commission, and to really to make the Advancing Europe package reality. So please, Katarzyna, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Stefan. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you can hear me well. So as introduced, my name is Katarzyna Walczyk-Matuszyk, and as a coordinator of the NCP WideNet project, I'm representing the network of national contact points in the area of widening participation and spreading excellence in Horizon Europe. And in my presentation, I would like to give you details related to the role of the NCPs, so the national contact point, our activities, and present you, as already introduced by Stefan, our new initiative, which will implement some parts of the Advancing Europe package. Next slide, please. Thank you. So national contact points, NCPs, are an essential component of Horizon Europe implementation. We are national structures established and financed by governments of EU member states and the states associated to the framework programs, with a role to deliver personalized support to applicants and in national language in regard to the framework program. Of course, we as NCPs dealing with the widening participation and spreading excellence, we are specialized in the instruments offered under the widening package of the Horizon Europe. Next slide, please. So there is a special document, minimum standards and guiding principles for setting up systems of national contact points under Horizon Europe, in which you will be able to find many details related to the vision, mission, and role of national contact points. In this document as well, you can find some targets and our activities assigned. Just in a nutshell, presenting you our mission, it is that we should offer highly professional support services and through this deliver the program's objectives and impact to all potential applicants, irrespective of a sector or discipline. So let's see in the next slide what we do in practice. So our role is to inform and raise awareness in regard to the Horizon Europe and such, and in particular in regard to the widening package. So in practice, you can find in every country a portal on Horizon Europe, which is being delivered in a national language. And on this portal, you will be able to find all the relevant information in regard to the Horizon Europe, updates, information on events, and as well, in particular to the widening section, the information how NCPs can support you. Then the second, the biggest part of our everyday job is to assist, advise, and train applicants in the countries in regard to the instruments offered under the widening package as such. But we not only work with applicants. The second part of our everyday job as well is the support and collaboration with those who are successful. So today you are applicants, but hopefully soon you will be beneficiaries. And that means that you also will be our clients. Because believe me, during the implementation of the projects, many questions will appear in regard to some most probably financial, legal issues, reporting, or maybe also communication and dissemination. And we as NCPs are there in the country to support you as well in the implementation process. Then the third part of our activities is related to the signposting and cooperation. In widening countries, we collaborate, especially with managing authorities, because as you have seen, in many widening instruments, or maybe in all widening instruments, the synergy is a must. In particular, in teaming, this is our role as well to collaborate with the organization offering complementary funding in order to deliver the relevant knowledge to the teaming applicants, but also in order to guide them to the right people, delivering the complementary funding who will support them in preparation of the, let's say, other applications. But also for us, very important are partners dealing with the smart specialization, dealing with the regional national strategies, so that applicants will be properly informed about what is about all the aspects in regard to the synergies. And of course, we collaborate with many other stakeholders. Our main partner is the European Commission, because as national contact points, we are being offered many trainings related to the widening instruments, to the implementation, evaluation process as well, and to the award criteria as such. That is why we have a first-hand and most updated knowledge, which we are afterwards passing naturally to our clients in the countries. So our services have certain characteristics. The first one is that what we offer in the countries is, of course, free of charge. We are financed by the governments, and that is why our services can be offered as a free of charge to the applicants. And the applicants, all the applicants have an equal access to our the portfolio of our services. Then very important is the confidentiality. So whenever you are coming to an NCP, I want to share with an NCP an information related to the idea for the proposal, or you want to show us the proposal and ask for some opinions and improvements, you can count on the confidentiality and be sure that we will not share your idea or the details of your proposal concept with any other people. And last but not least, very important is also the lack of conflict of interest. What does it mean in practice? So NCPs, we as NCPs, we cannot write a proposal for you, but we can consult the proposals in details with you. I will explain in a few minutes in which aspects in particular. We cannot be as well parts of consortia. So the NCP hosting organization cannot join the project consortia in regard to the instruments offered under the widening package, with one exception. There is a special action dedicated to NCPs. Also, the minimum standards and guiding principle documents is showing that there is the other exception. So the NCPs can be part of advisory bodies which will be established when the projects are already being implemented. But as mentioned, we are treating all the clients or the applicants equally. That is why we cannot be parts as well of the project consortium. So in my next slide, I will explain to you in details how to find contacts to the NCPs in your country. It is really easy. You have to just go to the Funding and Tender Opportunities portal, and in the upper top menu, just select the support button. When you will select the support button, then there will be an option of the support overview. After selecting these, you will see the other menu on the next slide, which is the support overview. And there will be popular support topics. At the end, you will be able to find a section, how to find a national contact point for Horizon Europe. Please select this, and then the NCP search will appear on the next slide. Here in this search, you are just indicating the country you are interested in and the function. So in practice, it means the part of the Horizon Europe you are looking for support. It is, of course, widening participation and spreading excellence. And after selecting these, the names of NCPs in your country and all the contact details will be displayed, which will give you the possibility to contact the right people and to also ask for support in the preparation of your proposals, but afterwards as well in the implementation of your projects. Let's go to the next slide, which is quite important because, as I have mentioned, we as NCPs cannot participate in the project consortia with one exception, which are NCP projects. NCP projects are special CSA actions offered by European Commission to the networks of NCPs. As you know, they are all, as the NCP structures are established in the EU member states and associated countries, and NCP projects offered by the Commission are giving us the possibility for transnational collaboration. We collaborate, we exchange know-how, experience, but we also are exposed to very detailed trainings, and thanks to these, we can improve the quality of our services and expertise, which is being offered to the clients. NCP WideNet project is the project which was financed under the Horizon 2020. Now, in Horizon Europe, we are working on a new initiative. As you saw also in the first presentation of today, that widening participation and spreading excellence is going hand by hand with the enhancing and reforming the European research area. That is why we also are going now hand by hand with the ERA NCPs. We joined forces, and under the umbrella of the new project, we will be able to deliver you more complex services. So not only the information related to the widening aspects, but also information related and support related to the cross-cutting issues such as gender, such as open access. Yet the most important or the biggest part of our future initiative will be special services developed under the Advancing Europe package, which is the proposal pre-screening, proposal pre-check, and the matchmaking possibilities. And on these two services, I will give you further details in a few minutes. So now let me give you an example on the just a few words on the NCP WideNet project, so that you can better understand our work as NCPs, and also you can better understand on what in practice you can count on. Let's go to the next slide. So our network is gathering organizations in a core consortium. These are 19 NCP hosting organizations, but all the other countries where there are NCP structures were collaborating with us. So we covered both the widening partners and non-widening partners. This is very important because with NCPs, we also have the access to our advanced partners, and through the NCP network, you can as well ask for the support in finding, for example, a partner from an advanced country. Now let's go to the next slide. Of course, the most important part of such an NCP initiative is the NCP capacity building. So we had the possibility and are having the possibility to participate in many activities such as mentoring visit, workshops, webinars, seminars, conferences. And during such events, we are not only sharing the experience between ourselves, but also had the access to very detailed knowledge related, for example, to the evaluation process of particular widening instruments, to the parts of the proposal on how to prepare it. We are also concentrating on the horizontal issue. We are concentrating on such aspects such as IPR management, such as communication, dissemination, then also the implementation of proposals. This is for that in order to deepen our knowledge and deliver later on to the clients the most practical, the most relevant information. As you will be able to see on the next slide, please, next slide. We also, thanks to these NCP projects, we have the access to real case studies. So on this picture, you can see one of our visits. to the ERA-Chair Successful Project. This is in Poland, this is in the Institute of Physical Chemistry, and there we had the opportunity to see the ERA-Chair project, to see the facilities, to see the institute, to see the impact of the ERA-Chair project on the institute, to meet the ERA-Chair, to know the success factors, but also to know the barriers. And we are displayed to such possibilities throughout the European research area, not only in widening countries where we have visited many coordinators, but also we had visits to advanced partners in order to learn their benefits from participating in widening actions. This is very important because exposure of widening advanced partners to the advantages of participating in widening actions is also part of our job. And thanks to knowing these case studies, we have a practical knowledge on what, for example, to avoid while preparing the proposal, and then which aspects to target in particular in order to ensure the successful of the applications. Then if we go to the next slide, I would like to show you as well that we are sharing best practices. So NCPs in their countries are exposed to different experiences and different case studies, which are very unique. But thanks to the NCP project umbrella, we can share our experience and we can deepen our knowledge so that, of course, the portfolio of our services and the quality is better and better. And then if we go to the next slide, I would like to show you that, of course, one part of such an NCP initiative is supporting the NCP job and capacity building, but then we are also sharing expertise with applicants. So this is quite essential part. We are delivering many opportunities for you to know the practical issues, to know the details, and to meet the key stakeholders while thinking about or preparing the applications to the widening core instruments, and afterwards also to, let's say, implement your successful projects. And in the next slide, I would like to indicate in particular that also we are trying to be visible throughout the widening community, but also very important aspect is that we are promoting beneficiaries. So we collaborate with the projects that were successful and trying to make them visible. In the practical manner for you, when you will be the beneficiaries, is that we are supporting you in the implementation of the obligation under the communication and the dissemination parts of your project, so that you can be you can show your case studies, your achievements in the international fora, of course, during several different events. In the next slide, you will see that we also share our expertise in many publications. So the brand new one is the success stories. We have collected many case studies of the widening core actions under the Horizon 2020 and the beneficiaries which managed to achieve funding and be successful in the implementation of the project. So within this publication, you can find many interesting examples on the teaming, twinning, ERA-Chair, and cost action. I believe it can be an inspiration for you while preparing future proposals. But at this moment, I would like to also promise you that in the middle of Horizon Europe, we will prepare the next edition, showing the success stories of the Horizon Europe, of the widening package core instruments, including as well the new instruments. So maybe it will be also a possibility for you to be exposed to the international community with your success story. Very important publication is as well how to apply. Of course, currently we are working on the one which will be related to the instruments under Horizon Europe. The publication shall be available soon. There we will not only tackle in details what is presented in the documents related to the calls, but also gives you many practical tips how to prepare a successful proposal and which mistakes to avoid in the proposal, but also in the proposal preparation process. Let's go now to the next slide. So statistics on widening calls. We have developed a special tool, which is a live tool. You can play with it, and it is available, where we are presenting statistics on the calls. Of course, currently in this tool, you can find statistics related to Horizon 2020 calls. It will be updated when we will have the results of Horizon Europe calls. But I would like to raise your attention that here you can find detailed data for particular widening countries on one hand, of course, the aggregated data, but also you can find such interesting information, like, for example, the list of organizations from widening and non-widening countries that were successful under particular actions of Horizon 2020, keywords in proposals, and then comparing with the keywords in successful projects. So I think it can be also very useful and inspiring for you while preparing the proposals currently, and playing with the tool and knowing many other aspects can enhance your chances in the application process. And then if we can go to the next slide, please. So what else can we offer? As I have mentioned, we are currently working on the new initiative, which will integrate important parts of the Advancing Europe package. Under this initiative and these new activities, we are addressing certain barriers which were proved under the Horizon 2020. So the first one is the professional pre-proposal check service. As you know, the participation of widening countries throughout framework programs and also Horizon 2020 is approximately 5% of the total available budget. And in many cases, it was indicated that the quality of proposal is not that excellent and could be better in order to compete with the others. So our role here will be to deliver the expertise and to offer the pre-proposal check to make the proposal simply more excellent and to enhance your chances in this competition. In details, I will explain it a bit later. Then the matchmaking services. So matchmaking is also one of the barriers. So widening countries are not exposed to the matchmaking possibilities in a proper manner. There is also one of the barriers is the limited visibility of widening partner on one hand, but on the other hand, as you know, there is a phenomena in the framework programs of closed clubs, of the silos. So the same consortia are applying and reapplying, and it is very difficult for widening partners to join the consortia. So we want, through these matchmaking activities, to expose widening partners for the better matchmaking and to make them also visible at the European level. Then widening applicants will have the opportunity to participate in workshops on proposal preparation, specialized events where you will be able to know every single details related to the proposal preparation. And of course, events on synergies where we will merge the managing authorities community with the Horizon Europe community, where you will be able to learn about the best practices, how to combine this issue in your proposals and how to enhance the chances for the success. I can promise you new publications, as mentioned, on new instruments, especially on how to apply, plus many updated information on widening and ERA package in our communication channels. So now let's see in the next slide more details on the pre-proposal check. So in practice, please, next slide, please. So in practice, before submitting your proposal, you can consult it with your widening NCP. And the professional pre-proposal check will be targeted towards, of course, all the widening instruments, but also to the proposals under Pillar 2, where widening applicants are either coordinators or work package leaders. Of course, widening NCPs, we have different professional background and we cannot consult the scientific part of your proposal. But what we can do is to check in details if your proposal is fulfilling all the core requirements. Plus, we can check all the formal aspects and give a special attention and a detailed pre-check in regard to the impact and implementation sections. Then we can as well advise you on the application process and criteria. Pre-proposal check in widening countries shall be either delivered by NCPs itself, but also it will be supported by external experts. So those with the experience in the evaluation of widening proposals and those with experience of the preparation of the widening proposals. So we believe that through this pre-proposal check, we will be able to improve the quality of proposals delivered under the widening package and Pillar 2 and under the Pillar 2 clusters, and the participation of widening applicants will increase through this action. Let's go to the next slide. So in order also to, let's say, professionalize this pre-proposal check service, we are developing quality standards and collecting best practices in more advanced, let's say, widening NCP systems already doing the pre-proposal check. And these standards shall be applied through the widening countries. And talking about the widening countries, please remember that these are member states, associated countries, but also outermost regions where the pre-check of proposals should be as well offered. And this quality standard should be applied in the pre-proposal check service, of course, in regard to widening instruments and Pillar 2 projects. Then we, as NCPs, will undergo a very intense training process so that you will be sure that services offered by us are very professional. And next to this pre-proposal check service, we will offer you transnational trainings on how to prepare proposal, how to write proposal, how to increase the chances for the success in regard to your proposal, and which mistakes to avoid. Next to these transnational trainings, there will be national trainings offered by NCPs, and they shall be also implemented according to the standards, joint standards elaborated under our project. Now let's go to the next slide. Matchmaking activities. As I have mentioned, this is the other barrier, that the visibility and also lack of matchmaking possibilities is influencing the participation of widening partners in the framework program. That is why we want to develop services that will support the participation of widening partners, especially in regard to the widening calls and in regard to the Pillar 2 calls under the clusters. So our role will be to support the virtual partner search, but also physical participation in the events. Now let's see the details in the next slide of the matchmaking activities. So currently there are many partner search tools which are related to particular clusters. And also there are quite a few matchmaking tools which are used while organizing, for example, a brokerage event. So our role will be to benchmark these tools and to find possible improvements in order to expose the widening participants to the better matchmaking possibilities, to be more visible, and also to make widening participants more visible to the advanced partners and encourage the advanced partners to collaborate with the widening applicants. Then throughout the Horizon Europe, there will be series of brokerage events organized under particular clusters. As you know, already some of them occurred in the last days, but do not worry, there will be much more of them in the following months and years. And what we want to do, we want to give the widening countries the possibility to support the physical participation of widening applicants in the brokerage event. So widening researchers will be able, or companies will be able to go to such brokerage events. Of course, if the pandemic conditions allow such possibility, if not, that there will be virtual participation, and find relevant consortia to join in. We will also, in that opportunity, we will also, of course, advertise properly the new hop-on mechanism to, if the widening partners will not join the consortia at the, let's say, preparation phase, then they will have the additional possibility to step in the project and deliver their expertise. And last but not least, one of the matchmaking activity which will be offered to applicants, this will be the study visits for the widening applicants to advanced partners. So the aim of this study visit will be on one hand to improve the knowledge and the capacities of the widening applicants, so that if they are going to the advanced partners, they can know, they can learn the best practices. One of the area we will for sure concentrate on will be the research management. But on the other hand, also the widening applicants will have the opportunity to know advanced partners, to match make with them, and in the future to deliver joint proposals. So here you can see the scope of our activities, which should support the matchmaking between widening applicants and advanced partners. Now let's go to the next slide. What is very important is also the visibility of our network and our activities throughout at the European level, but also at the national levels, so that we are sure that we can target our clients, widening applicants, but also that we can target the advanced partners and make them aware of the possibilities of collaboration with the widening applicants. Here you can see our portal, which is ncpwidener.eu. And on this portal, you can find, first of all, information related to the calls. It will be, of course, upgraded with the new calls. You can find information related to the news and events, plus the statistic tool I have explained to you. So now you can come and play, and our publications, which are available and can be inspiring for you in preparation the new proposal. The web portal will be soon also upgraded with the ERA part, as I have mentioned at the beginning that we are joining forces with the ERA NCPs. So it will be for you a great opportunity not only to find all the relevant information related to the widening instruments and widening package, but also to the ERA aspects and horizontal aspects, which are very important in the preparation of proposals. There are many questions today in regard especially to the gender aspects, the gender equality, plus to open access, ethics. So soon you also be able to find the expertise in regard to that. Now let's go to the next slide, please. We are also present in the social media. We are sharing with you the updates, the news related to the calls, related to success stories, but also related to events which are quite relevant that you should be aware of while starting the preparation of your proposal. That is why I can really encourage you to go through our communication and to join our two channels. And as mentioned, similarly to the webpage, soon there will be also upgraded with the ERA part so that you can have a complex information. And if we go to the next slide, I would like to especially encourage you to subscribe to our e-newsletter. This is our monthly release. Of course, now in July and August, we have a summer break, but the next issue will be delivered to you in September. Our e-newsletter is a publication which is concentrating to a high extent and a professional extent on the widening part of Horizon Europe, and it will be upgraded as well in the next issues with the ERA part. So in this e-newsletter, we are all to every issue of the e-newsletter, we are inviting an important stakeholder, important expert to share with us the latest news related to the, let's say, widening instruments. And here you can see the former Director General who shared with us the first impacts after the kickoff of Teaming 2 project. So the information presented were very important and very relevant for future applicants, but also were a way to disseminate the information on ongoing teaming projects. Then in this e-newsletter, we are informing the community about updates on the calls, about the call requirements. We are always targeting an important issue which is related to a selected instruments. For example, there were articles on how to successfully apply to twinning, which mistakes to avoid while preparing a twinning proposal. We are presenting then detailed statistics when we have already, of course, the data in regard to calls, but if there are some other statistics important for the applicants that they should take into account, while presenting their concept, the statistics are also there. Then the important section is, of course, the events at the international level. So which events will be targeting the scope of the widening and ERA part, but also the events at the national level. So for you, it's a great information, which events can you join and from which events can you learn. But also sometimes we are also advertising events where you could be a speaker if you are already a beneficiary of the call. And in every issue, we are trying to present a success story, so a concrete case study of the successful widening project of course, most the core instrument. And I believe this is also a great possibility for you to disseminate your project results. You can subscribe to our e-newsletter through our web. It is a simple subscription process, and I'm proud to say you that the number of the recipients of our newsletter is bigger and bigger. So we are happy that this is very much acknowledged. And currently, we think that this is the most updated and the most recent source of information related to widening and ERA. So if we go to the next slide, here is the NCP team. So you can see here faces of NCPs from all the EU member states and majority of the associated countries who will work with you on a daily basis while preparing the proposals for the Horizon Europe. Then if you go to the next slide, and here are more and more people from widening countries and advanced countries who are waiting and who are willing to support you. And if we go to the last slide of my presentation, on behalf of the NCP team, I would like to very much thank you for this possibility to share with you information related to our job, because it is very important for us to be visible and also to reach all the potential applicants with the information that there are NCP structure in every country, what can we offer to you, and that this is worth collaborating with us. And the other issue is that I will really encourage you for the collaboration, especially in regard to our new services, so the pre-proposal check and also the matchmaking service, because we believe that thanks to the new NCP action, we are targeting the barriers which the widening applicants are facing in their, let's say, everyday process of preparing the applications or joining the framework program. So once again, on behalf of the NCP, thank you very much. Thank you also, Stefan and the Commission, for your invitation to this important event.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed, Katarzyna, for this very comprehensive and clear presentation about all the services that the NCP can provide. And I would like to, with a personal comment, I would like to say also, according to my experience, that I have still already a while in widening and related and previous programs in with similar objectives. It is often here the NCP system in a country that is decisive for the success of a whole country in the framework program or the lack of success. It's not only about the big systemic questions and the grand policy, but here it's often about the quality of the NCP that are behind and also the individuals that are driving it. And I think one of the ambitions here in this initiative of the NCP is that we want to achieve equal quality standards all around in the widening countries, and I think this will also have a major impact on closing a bit or equalizing these disparities that we are still have also amongst the group of the widening countries. So thank you very much, Katarzyna. Now I hope that everybody is still a bit energetic and would be willing to hop on to the next presentation that is very closely related to Katarzyna's presentation. Sorry, I have seen questions. One question in Slido. I'm very sorry, Yanis. I was already a bit rushing too much. There's one question to Katarzyna. Are NCPs in widening countries responsible for other programs eligible to benefit from the training implemented by the widening NCP network? So.
Yes, thank you very much for this question. Under the new initiative, we are developing a special set of services which will rely in the collaboration with all the other NCP networks, especially with the NCP networks under the clusters. And we have foreseen the possibility of offering our expertise to other NCPs in order to make them familiar with not only the widening package, but also with the issue related to the proposal pre-check and aspects connected with the barriers the widening partners are facing, so that while they will organize their services under their NCP activities, they will have the extensive knowledge on how to develop those services so that they can ensure the proper participation of widening NCPs. I can assure you that next to these activities, such as trainings, we will collaborate closely also in regard to the communication to signpost and to deliver you all the relevant information, but also asked you for delivering us success stories whenever there will be successful projects with the coordination of the widening partners to be presented and to be show off.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that was the only question, but if I may, I would also drop here a comment on this, because this leads also over to the next presentation, because what we also need to tackle here is to breaking up the silos and opening the formerly closed clubs that was mentioned by Katarzyna already. But indeed, our idea here is that we dig a bit into the NCPs responsible for the Pillar 2, notably because there we have observed in the past the particular effects of closed clubs and networks that are always applying, reapplying, and so on, and claiming a large part of this funding for themselves. And here I think the opportunity is that we can make widening partners more known to these networks, and also to have a bit more an open culture of collaboration in the whole framework program. And one of the second instrument that we envisage to help out here is the hop-on facility. And then I would like to give the floor again to Joao, who kindly was taking a big burden today with 3 speeches. And I hope you are still in good shape, and you will present us now the hop-on facility, because there was also a lot of discussion and reflection also with the member states about that new facility.
Sorry,
so, Joao,
I'm centering myself. Sorry, and thanks, Stefan. I hope that our stakeholders are still there and not already tired, because it's a long day. And I would say, and it's a common say, but it's still valid. It's last but not least, we believe, and indeed there is a very useful link to the presentation at Katarzyna and the work of NCPs and this matchmaking facility and the pre-proposal checklist activities, these new activities that I'm going to also emphasize. Next slide, please. The first thing to note that this new facility and this novel action it addresses specifically one of the requests, and specifically the request of Article 20, number 3, to allow for the possibility of legal entities from widening countries to join ongoing activities under Pillar 2 actions. So this is really the main policy objective of the action, and we have already hints about the need to do this. And in very briefly, what I want to say also about this, that we have a first call that is going to be research and innovation action, and with 2 cutoffs foreseen, one in 20th of April and the other one almost at the end of 22, with a total budget of 40 million. Expected contributions will vary between 0.2 and 0.5. Again, these contributions may change and be smaller or higher if it's necessary. So please justify if you need a different contribution outside of these margins. And we expect to fund a number of proposals, mathematical calculations of at least 80. Of course, one thing that we can already foresee and that we need to evaluate. So this is not a pilot, but a kind of first call. So there is a number of things still to analyze, and there is a part of work in progress and preparation that needs to be still to be done, because the call it's only going to open also at a later stage in the beginning of 22. But we have already a good deal of useful information to share with you. Next slide, please. who can be applied? So it's going to be the consortium that is going to be funded, that should have a valid grant agreement. This point is important, but no partner from a widening country, and already anticipating what will be certainly if we're going to ask a question, you need to have no partners from the widening country. You can only have one, not two, not three for the time being, and according with what is stating in the work program, you have the possibility of having a single legal entity from a widening country. Of course, you need to identify this single entity. Here we envisage a two-way possibility. Either the consortium will reach out and identify this widening partner based on some activities that they want to develop, or on previous contacts on some activity that during the implementation they might consider that it is useful to include together with the ongoing project, and at this point try to identify the partner in the widening country. The other way around, it's also possible. If there is results and outcomes of the calls published in Pillar 2, you might consider if there is, if you are a partner in a country that is not participating, you can simply go to Cordis and there check the results and the projects funded. The partners in each project are identified in Cordis, so this information is public, and then see if the project is of interest and contact the coordinator. Of course, and last but not least, again, we are expecting our national contact point network to also help with these tasks. All the proposal can be submitted. This proposal needs to be submitted by the coordinator of the consortium. All the partners in the consortium need to agree with the session of the new partner. This is common sense, but it's also important to realize and to consider when preparing a proposal. And the proposal should include a detailed description of both the partner and the tasks that will be allocated to this partner, and the complementarity existing with the already existing project and needs to be demonstrated. How to present this? The partner and the task should present it based on the description of work already existing, and so you will present a kind of track changes document, and presenting the partner, presenting the new tasks, and this is submitted all together. If you are, and this is something that I wish to emphasize, if you are already close to the page limit of the previous year, we will allow for extra pages to be added for the description of the new partner and the description of the new tasks. Next slide, please. How we expect this to be implemented? It's once that the proposals are evaluated, and there is a ranking list and established. So the proposals that are considered for funding will be invited to submit an amendment request, and it's very clear that this amendment request should follow what is submitted, and it's very closely. And when this agreement is submitted, an agreement with the proposal, then it will be signed and the new partner will be added with a specific budget that is going to be allocated. This budget, its allocation should be mainly and exclusively I would say mainly for the benefit of the new partner, with only one additional budget possible, that is a coordination fee of up to 10% of the budget allocated for the new partner. So you can see that very simple. This is a kind of simple procedure, but we still hope that we will achieve what is the legislators wanted when creating this possibility, this facility. Next slide, please. And what the legislator wanted and what we try to achieve addressing this request is at the system, what level of systematic, increase the visibility of the research organizations in widening cultures and increase their participation in Pillar 2 actions. organizations, they will benefit also because they will be able to break and enter this clubs and this. I think the word is not good, but this usual partnering that has been happening for some time and that tends to be maintained. So they will have the possibility to finally join some of the excellent projects that they can see that in the past they were not invited to participate on. The benefits, of course, that will benefit not only to the access to the new research avenues, that benefit from the experience of the others. So this is a simple measure that we expect that benefit all at different levels. Thanks. This is the last slide, and I believe the last part of our info day. Thanks for your attention. Back to you, Stefan.
Yeah, thank you very much, João. I'm wondering if there were some questions. Yannis, did you identify some questions from the audience? Yes, maybe you could play them. Okay, thank you very much. So the first one is, it seems funding is attributed to the consortium, but it's not mandatory to benefit widening partners directly. Are there eligibility conditions for the funds? In this direction, why would the coordinators be motivated to include the widening countries? Is the question clear to you, João?
Yes.
So please.
So it is mandatory to, it is a misunderstanding. I hope that during the presentation I had already kind of at least partially addressed this question. So the fund, the additional fund should be entirely allocated to the benefit of the widening partner directly. Though the activities conducted by this partner will be for the benefit of the consortium as a whole, but this also concerns the other participants. When you are part of a consortium, of course, that you have to do those activities for the benefit of the project as a whole, not only for your own benefit. Regarding the eligibility conditions for the funds, all the activities that can be funded under the original RIA can also be considered for the additional partner. So there is no limitation on the type of activities that they will be funded, provided that they will also part of the original call.
Okay, the next question is, it is hard to imagine yet how Hop-on will be implemented in practice. Will there be hands-on training provided closer to the call opening? Thank you.
For the time being, it's not foreseen to have, but I believe that not only we have the FAQs, but on top of it, we'll have certainly our national contact point network helping on this. But in third aspect, we too, at the Commission level, we will propose dedicated info sections in the countries, either depending on the situation at pandemic level, either directly in the countries or via Zoom or other remote trainings. But yes, there will be support and more detailed information, yes.
And thank you very much, João. The next question is, which application form will be used for Hop-on scheme? Will there be a special proposal template?
I would be tempted to say no, because we expect that you use at least partially, and I would leave a little bit the question mark, a little bit of this question unanswered, because for the time being there is no foreseen template, and we still have 6 months roughly to prepare for the launch of the call itself. But we expect that a substantial part of the proposal will be presented of the description of the original RIA proposal and modified to include the additional partner. So this way we'll have already at least a good part of the future amendment prepared. So it should be clear from this proposal for a request of amendment what was the original proposal, and to present the partner and to present additional activities. And so I don't see for the time being the need for an additional template, but it might be necessary depending on the practicalities of implementation. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Very clear. Then there's another question. What will be examined when the application to hop on into an existing network will be submitted? How would you avoid deviations from funded work, and how will potential widening participants know which project from Pillar 2 are selected? Will there be transparent information?
Well, let's start with the easier parts. I already tried to address this question because it's the last two questions, because it's a very legitimate and very important question. Indeed, how to identify the partners, what are the Pillar 2 calls concerned. So the Pillar 2 concerns for the time being, except if there is any kind of geographical restrictions or other, because there are multiple calls on the Pillar 2, and it's very difficult to, at this point, have a precise information if there is any specific detail that prevents the addition of a partner. But as a general rule, all the calls published under Pillar 2 are possible to implement the opt-on. So, except in duly justified cases, all the calls of Pillar 2 are eligible for opt-on. Regarding how to identify these calls, the partner and the consortium, as I mentioned, a first and fundamental source of information, it's going to be Corvis, because there we publish the outcome of each call of Pillar 2, indicating the names and the summary and all the partners involved with the project. So there, I think it's an excellent point to start, and you certainly can find information there if you are looking for a consortium. On the other way around, it's a little bit more complicated, because how a consortium can identify a partner in the widening country. I think this is a little bit more complicated, but our matchmaking facilities and the contacts of the consortium, each one of their partners, can also help. So it's not, we are not going to create a matrix of possible partners and possible consortia, but the information will be circulated as much as possible, taking into consideration also the data restriction that we also have. Now, trying to address the first part of the question, the first thing to say is that the previous project of the ongoing project and the ongoing consortium will not be re-evaluated. So there is no evaluation of the existing project or consortium. The only thing that is going to be evaluated, and this is very clear and very well detailed in the work program, it's the excellence and the added value of the new partner, and how the activities that are proposed complement the existing project. I think more or less I tried to cover this. I don't know if you want to have something on this, Stefan.
Oh, well, I think you perfectly answered already the questions. I think the most important point here to retain is that there will be no re-evaluation of the proposal. So the proposal as such stands. It is here really about matchmaking, where we also count on the help of the NCPs, and there is no, let's say, automatism. I think it really has to also to start a bit the finding of the partner, and this integration needs to start a bit also from the demand side, that there needs to be a clear need and a convincing role for these widening partners. And another thing, what is also very important to mention, what we want to avoid is very clearly that consortia put potential candidates from widening countries in the waiting queue, and just they go into a proposal into the regular submission without a widening partner, and then they have somebody waiting at the sidelines to be hopefully activated via the hop-on. This is not at all really a good idea, and I have to say it very clearly, very bluntly. We strongly discourage that, because first of all, there's no guarantee that the hop-on will function, and we need really to have this as a self-standing mechanism, and it should not be linked into any speculation of a later stepping in of the widening partner. But okay, I see there's another important question. Is there going to be a portal available for funded Pillar 2 projects looking for widening participants? João, maybe you want to say something?
I think it's a very good question for us, for the two of us, because I think it's an interesting suggestion. For the time being, nothing is foreseen specifically, but it's indeed there is the possibility, and in some calls there is a possibility of looking for the other way round, a possibility of, and this probably can in the funding and tender portal, there is already foreseen in the framework of calls the possibility to include their wish to find a partner. So if you go into the funding and tender portals, if you look into the call, in some calls at least, I'm not sure it for all, there is this possibility. If you are looking for a partner, you can just advertise your wish for a partner there. So this possibility should, and certainly it will be also included in the op-on. So there, if you are a consortium, you might expose your availability in this place, or we can consider a specific portal, or maybe our NCP WideNet can help putting this information online also. But already there is this possibility in the participant in the funding and tender portal, so I think we should use it.
I fully agree, João. I think this is an important point, since we have already a lot of platforms and portals. We are not so much keen to reinvent the wheel again, and just providing an electronic platform does not guarantee the success. We should also be aware that the magnitude of this first call is relatively humble. We have set aside 40 million. That will mean we could fund, let's say, approximately, let's say, roughly speaking, 100 amendments, or maybe a little bit more. This is not huge. And therefore, to create to have another IT development for new portal would not make sense so much. Of course, we are here a bit on the new grounds, although some of you might, who are as old as me or older, might remember that there was a similar activity under the FP5 where hop-on, at that time it was called a topping up call, and that might have even inspired a bit the legislators to put that into our duty, into our terms of reference for Horizon Europe. But at that time, the magnitude was not that big, and the experience was that a lot of this matchmaking was done with the help of the NCPs, who know very well what is happening in a certain specialized call or domain. So I would trust here more into a very diversified approach to bring these partners together. And again, I would like to discourage having, let's say, a speculative approach, putting somebody aside in the waiting queue, because either you are convinced of a partner, then this partner should be immediately in the consortium, or for the case of hop-on, that you might not know about a potential partner who would enrich the consortium. and then the hop-on would be the option to be taken for the non-widening coordinator, or maybe coordinator from a widening country. But I see here there's another question. Sometimes the grant agreement for Pillar 2 will not be signed till the end of the first deadline for submission under hop-on scheme. Can consortium only be selected prior GA, prior the grant agreement? Joao, would you like to say something on this? It's quite indeed a very interesting question.
It's an interesting question. So according with the work program, the consortium can only be funded if they have a valid grant agreement. And so the question here lies, and it's a technicality, where the deadline should be. If the deadline should be at the time of the submission or at the time of the signature of the amendment. I think that I prefer not to be precise on the answer, saying that this needs to be probably checked with our legal people, to be honest, because I don't know if you want to add something, but it's really, I would be tempted to say, but to give an answer, but I prefer to reserve the answer until we are really sure about it.
Yeah, I think as it stands and as it was requested, let's say the procedure was really that there should be a signed grant agreement. But okay, we are now, as the participant correctly stated, we are now in a bit slightly complicated situation because we had a delay in the publication and in the submission, or in the publication and adoption of the work program for reasons that you probably know, but I would not like to comment again on this. But at the same time, we wanted to retain the schedule for the widening calls in order not to push the deadlines for the hop-on too much behind. We are now for the first cut-off date, right? We are indeed in a squeezed situation where we do not know how many consortia and projects will already be existing, how big the pool will be for potential host projects. So it could happen that we are in a bit difficult situation that might lead to a situation for the applicants. It could be good because the pool of potential host projects will be small, so the success rate for the hop-on will be probably extremely high for the first cut-off date. But once we come into the later cut-off dates where there will be a population of potential host projects, then we are in a bit more comfortable situation. I see another question. Do you think there will be an issue in the motivation of widening countries to join if their tasks are agreed when the project is already approved?
I don't think so, really. I think the opposite. Even I tend to be optimistic here because you have, as a new participant, will have the possibility of, joining something that you know that is good, that you know that is up and running, and that you probably have tried to join for some time, and it was not very easy, either because of your dimension or because you are well known, and this allows you to put a step on the door and to really to have it open later on, and maybe for the next round of application to a similar call already be part of the consortium. So I think it represents a good opportunity. I don't see a problem with this, honestly.
I fully agree, because I think here the motivation would be given by an additional relevant and interesting activity in in the interest of the whole consortium, and it depends a bit here on the creativity of the consortium and the new partner to identify and to define this task. And in the reality, in practice, it is often the case that when a consortium is set up and the project is planned and then prepared, there are plenty of ideas in the mind, and people are very creative. And then there are often budgetary restrictions that lead to an effect that some good tasks or activities in the research are chopped off because simply there is not enough money in the call or in the topic. And then it makes fully sense and is motivating for the new partner if there's an opportunity maybe to come back to an idea that was formerly dropped because due to the lack of finance, and to come with such a new task and to put on board an additional partner. But it should never be a kind of a speculative approach that you already take this into account from the very beginning, because if it is not successful, then it can really create a lot of frustration, and it's not in the spirit of this program. And we will also, of course, brief our evaluators to look into a bit into that. So in case there's the impression that we had here a standby partner in the background, that we should discourage that and maybe even consider this with the scoring. Yeah, okay, so I see no further question, but maybe a last comment. Since this is new and the call is not yet published, a lot of details still on the workflow will still be elaborated. And in due time, of course, we will communicate this information. So it's very well possible that there could be a kind of a template still to be developed. But I think if you are looking for this opportunity, you know all the principles right now, you know how it will function. So you can already start reflecting on that, or if you have ideas, you can follow up the ideas. In due time, before the call is going to be published, we will send you further information. We are also providing an FAQ document, which has been very much inspired already, or will be inspired by the questions that we also record today in the session. We will try to give you then the best feedback in a FAQ document that will be published, I presume, in autumn prior to the call opening, but not immediately after this event like the other FAQs, because we also have to, let's say, to fix some operational workflow-related things, and so we want to give you the complete information package. Joao, would you like to complement something, to add something?
Well, just to thank our stakeholders for their patience and their time, because it's been a long session, and I'm counting on the success of this action because I think it's interesting. Thanks, Stefan.
Yeah, thank you very much, Joao. Okay, so then we come to the end of this session, and I really thank you all very much for all your active participation. I see a general question at the end of the day: will there be more new action targeted on the creation of widening partnerships and the promotion of excellence? This is a good question. We are not that I actually cannot yet answer, because we will prepare already during, let's say, the next year, the work program 23-24, but we have to still to consult stakeholders, member states, and also see a bit what will be the return to the calls that we have just published. So it is actually not possible to answer this question straight away. So anyway, I thank you all. It was a quite intense day, the morning and the afternoon session, and I hope we could cover your all your questions. Of course, you have the possibility to send questions in writing via there's a portal, an inquiry facility where you can drop your question, and then that will be referred then to our experts in our team or in other services that can help you and answer you. And again, I would also refer to our NCP network that will be very active, and there will be a couple of workshops on particular issues. So after that, I wish you a good weekend and hopefully a nice summer break. Thank you very much, and bye-bye. Bye.